Right, so this week my wife made a notebook and this is how she did it. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is to make a whole pile of these little reams of paper, and they're 4 A4 pages folded in half and then grouped together. And you'll be sewing these together, and that's what this little piece of wood with nails sticking out is for, and it's to make the holes in the exact same place every time, and that way you end up with nice even seams. If you don't have one of these or can't make one of these, you can always use an awl and a ruler, but it's less accurate. This is what it looks like whenever it's done. You've got all the holes all lined up, ready to go for the next stage. The next stage is putting on the bits of string that are going to hold all the pages together. And so we've got this little jig here with a rail along the top and some eye bolts at the bottom. And we're going to tie 3 pieces of string. This is jute string that I use for binding logs together in the woods, and line those up with the 3 middle holes that you've made in the pieces of paper. If you want to see how I made this jig, then there's a video from way back when, probably in the corner now. So to tie the pages together, we're going to use a waxed cotton, and to make sure you get the right length, you need to hold the right number of lengths up to your pages and then add 10%. So on the very first hole, when you put your needle through, you don't want to pull the string all the way through. You want to leave a little tail, because that will tie into the one above it once you've finished doing the rest of the book. You then want the needle to come out through the second hole and go around the jute string and back in through the second hole, and then along the inside of the book and out of the next hole, which is in this case the middle one, and you want to go out and in of each of the holes with string in front of them. And then on the very last hole, you want to come out and then up to the next layer of the book, and then repeat what you did the first time all the way along back to the first hole. You can then tie the little tail you left at the beginning to the piece of string that's just come out of that second layer's hole. So now you've got the first 2 layers done. That's the base ready to go, and you can just carry on doing the rest of them. But at each end you need to remember to dip the needle down and go under the little joining piece of string on the previous layer, so that you ensure that all the pieces are joined together, otherwise it will concertina itself apart. Having removed all the pages from the jig, it's now time to cut the jute string to length, and you want it to come across the book about 2/3 of the way. So next we need to put on the cover pages. These are the pages that protect the first page of the book and also hide all the bits of string and leather edges and stuff when we put the covers on. And to do this, we're going to stick half of the A4 page to the first and the last page of the book, and that will leave the other half of the page to stick to the cover. And with a bit of baking parchment on the outside of the book, we're going to put it into a clamp, and that's going to just help the glue stick to that first and last page. While the book is in the clamp, we're going to put some more PVA glue onto the spine of the book, and that's going to soak down just a little way, and that's going to help stick the folded edges of the book together, helping the spine become even more rigid. And there's just 2 other little things we need to glue on at this point while gluing the book, and one is the page marker, and so that's just a bit of ribbon that is folded over and glued into all that glue we rubbed on the spine. And then the last thing is a little strip of material. It doesn't particularly matter what, we're using linen, it just happens to be an offcut from something we made ages ago, and that's just going to help give a bit more fibre reinforcement to the spine of the book, again making it nice and stiff but also sort of flexible. So for the cover, we're going to use a piece of card that was used to protect a piece of tempered glass for a device we bought ages ago. And what we're going to do is we're going to drill 3 holes in it to allow us to put the string through, and then what we'll do is we'll fray that string and spread it over the rest of the cover and glue it down, and that way that'll act as the hinge for the covers of the book. And then with a bit of baking parchment in between the glue and the red cover to stop them sticking at this point. We then put the book into the clamp and clamp it nice and tight to make sure that it's not going to move and the covers are all lined up. So this is more of the leather that we got in our Amazon random leather scraps bag that we also used in fixing the dog's collar to stop it making a tinkling noise. And these are just some of the random bits they sent us. And so we're going to cut them into some neat-ish squares. And then we're going to join them together. We're going to do it on a sewing machine, but I think we're going to do a quick clap because it took a surprisingly long time. However, it should be noted that the dog didn't necessarily help with this process of trying to sew these bits of leather together. With finding the laser cutter still fairly novel, we basically shove everything into it to see what it does. And so we came up with a quick design for the cover of the book and gave it a go on the laser cutter. Due to the size of the book, we could only do one side of the cover at once. So we had to lay the leather down and then tuck the rest of it in underneath the mechanism. And then when we wanted to do the other side, we had to take it apart, take it out, and then turn the whole thing around and reset it all again for the other side of the book cover. So with the cover all made, it's time to get the PVA glue out again, and we've put the book in the clamp with one half of the leather cover in the clamp and the other half is free floating at the minute, and we're going to peel that back and then we're going to put a load of PVA on the spine and put the leather on that and then tie the leather to the spine with the string between the pegs, making sure that the string is right up against those bits of twine we put into the spine earlier, and that gives nice crisp corners. So once that's all tied in and you've let the glue go off overnight, it's time to unwrap it and start looking at sticking on the covers. As with everything else in this book, we're going to cover the card with PVA and then we're going to press the leather against that and then put it back in the clamps until it dries. So we're on to the last stage now. All we've got to do is trim the corners and trim the middle bit so that we can fold the edges of the leather over the cover, and then we've got to apply a bit more PVA and then stick down the red cover sheets so that it hides all the string and the edges of the leather, and then back in the clamp for one more drying session and then the book will be done. So if I missed out any bits or you've got any questions on the process that we did during making this book, then please leave the questions down in the comments below. I'll do my very best to answer all of them. And if you like this sort of thing and want to see me make more random things every week, then please remember to subscribe to the channel. And if you want to help with the YouTube thing, then please remember to like as well, because it helps everything a little bit more. And I will see you all next week.